Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started today. If you are not one of our speakers, I am probably going to be muting you. But if you have questions, please let us know. We will have time for questions at the end. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So welcome to our Small Business Matters series. These are typically our events that we do live in person at the chamber, but with the current situation, we have moved those online with our webinars. These would not be possible without our sponsors. So I'd like to thank our Small Business Champion sponsors. They are GTR Media Group, IBT, Southwestern Payroll, Tulsa Tech, Tulsa Drillers, and Lamar. We also want to thank our sponsors, Aero Exterminator, Hightower Business Solutions, and AVB Bank. And before we get started with today's webinar, I want to let you know of some other webinars we have coming up at the Broken Arrow Chamber. They are access to capital. So if you are looking at ways to bring in capital into your business with some of these new programs, please join us tomorrow at 2 p.m. We will also be having some webinars next week. Our first one is Workplace Mental Health During This Time. Dr. Melissa Leedy with Legacy Counseling will be joining us for that one. And then we're also going to have another one on Thursday of next week, Resources for Workforce Resiliency. Is your business ready for employment changes? And we will be joined by people from the SBA and other experts to help us with that. So to get started today, I want to introduce our panel. Our panel consists of 3 of our Broken Arrow Chamber members. First is Nathan Hall. He is the CEO and president of Anchor Media. He is an expert in marketing, and he has designed many websites to help with selling products online for large and small retailers. He can also assist with the messaging that is needed to create your online presence. We also have 2 of our chamber members that are actually small business retailers themselves who have already created their online presence, and it's been helping them, especially during this time, but as they also grow as a business. Joining us today is Stacy Davis. She is the owner of Alley Bally Boutique, and Chelsea Taylor, the owner of Wooden Rose Boutique. Both of these boutiques are located in the heart of the Rose District. And interestingly, they both started as an online presence before opening their brick and mortar locations. So as we get started, Nathan, why don't you start to discuss the importance of having an online presence?
Sure. Well, let's see, where do we start? Obviously, the reason we're talking about this is because we're all living through this crazy pandemic virus crisis apocalypse of business scenario that we're all trying to figure out how to navigate and survive and thrive. And obviously, I think it's, for so many businesses who are primarily doing sales in person, they're not set up online. This is a really hard time for them. And so I think, it's beneficial to be able to sell online at any point in time, but especially in, crazy situations like this, I think it's really brought that to the forefront for a lot of folks. And, but I understand why so many people don't do it. There's a couple hurdles. It can be a little bit complicated to set up at first, and people are intimidated by that. But, we're here to help. So I guess I think one of the few things we were going to talk about at this beginning stage, if I remember the conversation we were having, Lori, is just talking about a handful of things that we could put on our site that would help drive sales. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. So you're shaking your head. So one of the first things that I would always recommend is just having high quality photographs. So much of people's first impression, it's just like in real life, your first impression, there's only one first impression. And so having good quality photos of your products, and if you're doing a services-based business, either way, you want to show smiling, happy people using your product, because people always want to move towards a vision of success. They want to see themselves thriving and surviving and looking their best if you're selling clothes and things like that. And then just a little tip for that would be to use natural light as much as possible. I think that's the easiest way to uh, make sure your photos are going to look better. You know, if you're just using a little lamp, it's not going to look that great. And then two major things that I would point out are your calls to action. And what I mean by that is it's the buy now button. It's the schedule a call. It's the download a free trial, whatever it is, your main call to action button. And so many folks there, you know, you'd be surprised the number of websites that I go to. Probably not so much with retail. Hopefully they have an order now or a shop now or something along those lines. But even still, a lot of times what I like to do is repeat that main call to action throughout the site. So it's not uncommon if I'm building a website to have that same call to action on that page, homepage 9-10 times, because it's your cash register. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have ever gone to like a Dillard's or a some kind of a store where you found what you were looking for, you wanted to buy it, but you couldn't find the cash register. How frustrating that is. You're kind of walking around looking for it or looking for a salesperson to help you. That's really annoying as a customer. And what happens is, you know, when you don't have a really obvious call to action button on your website, that's what you're doing. It's basically like you're hiding the cash register from your customers. You really don't want to do that. So in fact, a lot of times what I'll say is your buy now button, or whatever verbiage you want to use there, it needs to be the most obvious button on your entire website. It is that critical. Don't hide it from them. And then another thing that I would point out is what's called a transitional call to action. And what I mean by that is, you know, 90% of the people that go to your website, they're not necessarily ready to buy from you the first time they go to your site. It's true for every single business. It's true for retail as well. But it doesn't mean that they're not a good fit or that they're not good potential customers or that they don't like what you have. It just means they're just looking. They're just investigating. And so what you want to be able to do is find a way to where you can follow up with them. And so let me see if I can, Laura, do you mind if I share my screen? Can I do that? Yes, no? Yeah, okay, I can see you shaking your head. Actually, let's see if I hit share. Oh, it says you cannot share screen while another participant is sharing. So I guess you'd have to not share that.
Will that work?
No, I think you have to hit the stop sharing button on your, maybe down at the bottom.
I'm looking.
It's all good. Well, the idea is, you know, you ever seen those like pop-ups? Some people they hate pop-ups where the thing pops up at the end or whatever. That's an example of a transitional call to action. And what that means is they're offering something that is valuable enough to charge for, hopefully. The effective ones are. And somebody would willingly put their information in there in order to get this free download, free, maybe it could be a coupon if it's for online retailers. It could be free shipping. It could be an example of, I don't know. I mean, there's a handful of ways to do it, but essentially you want to be able to follow up with them. So that's kind of the beginning of the sales funnel, driving sales. 90% of the people that go to your website, they're not ready to buy, but it doesn't mean that they're not willing to buy. It just means they're not ready yet. They're just investigating. I don't want to take up too much time here, so I'm trying to figure out, maybe this is a really good example right here to do. It's called passing the grunt test. And I am going to use, this is an example of well, that didn't work. Can you guys see, can you see this? Does it say American Pie company. You see that?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. So this is a website that I'm building for a client right now, and they sell pies and gifts and things like this. And so what I like to do is I call this passing the grunt test. And what that means is it needs the header of your website, the first part that you see needs to be so clear that a caveman could look at it for 5 to 7 seconds and know exactly what you do. So they need to know what you sell or what you do, what service you provide, how it makes their life better, and what they need to do in order to do business with you. It's 3 questions. Every single website needs to have this. And so you can see here, what do they do? Well, they sell made from scratch pies and thoughtful gifts. How does it help them? It's going to help you show how much you care to people when you're, doing this. And what do they need to do to buy? It's this super obvious red button, order now. You'd be surprised how many websites do not. It's almost like they're trying to confuse people on what they're selling. And then this would be like an example of a transitional call to action. I wouldn't say necessarily get your free ebook, but what we're going to replace this with is download our pie crust recipe or something along those lines. Something where somebody would, click on it to get this recipe to try it out, and then you have their information so you can stay in contact with them in the future. Does that work, Lori? I guess I'm turning it over to you then.
Yes, now we're going to have Chelsea speak about the platform she utilizes for her small business. Chelsea, if you'll talk about Shopify.
Absolutely. So I chose Shopify just because I feel like it was very user friendly. And so Shopify for me works in 2 ways. One, it works as what I call as my front of house or my website, what the public is seeing. And then it also works as my back of house. So my inventory, my reporting, my shipping, everything like that. And so Shopify for me was starting out a really great option because it offered affordable ways for me to build a website kind of pre-built for me, I guess. And then I was just able to kind of choose colors and things like that. And starting out just on the online scene, that really made a difference for me because I didn't at the time have thousands of dollars to throw into a website being built. And so it has been really, really, just like I said, user-friendly and easy to navigate. And so it's served its purpose well for me in that it's kind of everything that I need, that front of house and back of house system all in one.
Have you found it easy for you to use?
Yes, extremely. I am really not when it comes to computer. I can do Facebook and Instagram stuff all day long, but when it comes to kind of the computer or website stuff, that's not my strong suit. And so I feel like it's extremely easy to navigate. They have great customer service as well. That's 24/7. And so I really have not ran into an issue that I couldn't fix. So it's been a great platform for me to start off with.
Okay. Now, Stacy, you use a different platform, and correct me if I pronounce it wrong. Weebly?
Yes, that's correct. For me, it syncs with our, so I have had a website for years, but I have 2 different businesses. And so that was for a different business when I started first, which I still have, but starting the website for the storefront, I had the storefront first, and I needed something that integrated with my point of sale system. And so Weebly was the best fit for me as far as how easy it was to integrate, and it does all of the same things that Chelsea said as well. Anytime I sell something online, it's going to update in the store and vice versa. So I don't have to do inventory tracking. It syncs, which I think is very important some of those websites that I looked at did not have that option for my point of sale system. So you kind of have to know what's going to work for you. So that's what we did, and pretty much the same exact thing that Chelsea said. It's super easy. I'm not one that's very computer savvy at all. So my husband actually did this for me. I don't like any of it. But it was something that needed to be done. And so he just stepped up and did it. But it just took a few days to get everything situated and to get running. So it's definitely not a hard thing to do. It's just a task. And, you know, you have tasks that have to be done with a small business, fun or not, in order for your business to work and run. So it, you know, for those people who don't have one right now, it's not, you know, it's not too late to get one started. It's not super time consuming. It may be a little more time consuming than what you want, but we have lots of time right now. So it's a great time to start.
Mm-hmm. Now, once you're up and started, let's say even if you just put your first 5 to 10 most popular items or the things that people come into your store for. Now, Nathan, what are some of the marketing techniques for success that people need to use with their online store, and how should they be messaging that? Should they be using an email campaign? Should they focus on social media? What are some things you would recommend?
Sure. Well, I think the way I like to look at it is there's kind of two parts to this. And the first part is even more critical than the second part. The first part is how you talk about and position your business and your products. And what I mean by that is, you know, if you're selling one thing, if you're selling an apple for $1, and this company over here is selling that same apple for $1.50, the only thing you have to compete on is price. But if you can differentiate yourself so that people realize it's not the same product, it's not the same thing, then you're not necessarily competing on price. You're competing on a handful of other, you know, things. So the way you talk about it and stand out. Let's see. It says Lori Lewis is.
Oh,
I lost my. Oh, here you guys are. It moved all around on me. But the idea is, yeah, just being really clear about what you offer, who it is that you help and serve. And what I like to do is, I don't really have time to get all the way into this, but maybe a resource that I would point you guys to. It's called Building a Story Brand. And it's a book by a guy named Donald Miller. It's a New York Times bestseller. It's a fantastic book. It will help you clarify your message that you stand out in a really noisy marketplace. That is the biggest challenge. You know, every single day we get hit with 700 messages, advertising messages, according to research, and our brains are just experts at tuning this stuff out. We just don't have time for it. You know, we've got too many things that we're trying to deal with. I don't have time to look at your commercial. I don't have time to look at your advertising. And what happens is the clearest messages are the ones that we pay attention to because they require the least amount of calories for us to burn. I don't know how many of these emails, COVID emails you guys have gotten where it's like this big old long thing of text. I mean, just like it looks like a book. I am not going to read that. I don't even care what's in the email. I'm just not going to read it because it's requiring too much effort on my part to keep up with. I don't have that much time. I don't have that much energy. It requires too much mental processing. And so that's a really good example of somebody being unclear. You know, you're giving too much stuff. It's not cutting through the noise. And what I like to do is we use a framework. It's called a brand script. And it helps businesses keep their messaging consistent so that people understand what it is you do and why they should do business with you. That's one of the biggest hurdles in any kind of business. People may understand that you sell clothes. They may understand that you sell whatever it is that you sell, but they don't necessarily understand why they should do business with you versus somebody else. That's a much harder one to clarify in people's minds. And, you know, basically this brand script thing that I'm talking about, it serves there's 7 different types of messages, and it's all based around storytelling. I don't know if any of you guys, you have little kids or anything like that. My kids love cartoons, and if I asked them to watch a cartoon, how long do you think that they would watch it for? All day. They would just not stop watching cartoons if I would let them. You know, if I ask them to clean their room, how long do you think it's going to take? How many times do I have to say it, clean your room? Like a gazillion times. And the difference is stories hijack our brains. It's the reason why you can go to a movie theater and sit for 2.5 hours in the dark and not daydream one single time. That's just how all of our brains work. And I've studied this to the point where I realized that every story, and you'll recognize these elements if you think about it, every story has these 7 components. There's a hero, and that hero wants something. Unfortunately, they run into a problem, and that problem is keeping them from getting what they want. And then they meet a guide, and this guide helps them to win the day. So the guide is like Obi-Wan Kenobi or Luke or Yoda or something like that. You know, in Hunger Games, it's Woody from Cheers. You know, he helps Katniss survive. And anyway, the reason I'm kind of getting into the story stuff is your marketing is actually a story too. It's just not talking about you. Your customer is the hero, and you're there to help them win the day. And it doesn't matter what you sell, your job is to help your customer win. And anyway, I would say just read the Building a Story Brand book. It's going to do a much better job than I can do in 3 minutes here, but that's a helpful thing. The second thing is creating a sales funnel. And what I mean by that is you write a one-liner so that people understand what you do. It's like an elevator pitch. And then I would wireframe your website in such a way, I would build your website in such a way that it funnels people towards a sale. And there's a lot of things that go into that. The third one is a lead generator. So I would have something that they could download so you can stay in touch with them. Because you guys all realize this, you know, people are not ready to buy just because you're ready to sell. They don't care, you know, and so the trick really is just staying top of mind so that when they're ready, they think of you as the person that they want to buy from. And so a lead generator will help you do that. They can download it. You can stay in touch with them through the next thing, which is email nurture campaigns. So you can stay in touch with them. And then finally is sales campaigns, to where you can send a sales email that they can you can encourage them to buy from you. Hopefully that makes sense.
Now we're going to have Chelsea and Stacy talk about some of the ways that they keep their name out there. Chelsea, why don't you tell us a little bit what you do with Facebook and Instagram, and then Stacy will join us with a texting app that she uses.
So for me, my marketing has an online presence in general has really been 2-part. Your website and but then also my online presence in Facebook and Instagram. And so I have my Facebook business page and then my Instagram business page. And the great thing I love is that you can link those together. So whatever I'm posting on Instagram, and that's where I'm posting from 99% of the time, I have it linked where that same thing just goes straight to my business Instagram. So I'm not having to worry about going to 2 different platforms and posting 2 separate times or things like that. Another thing is specifically for retail, and what I'm doing is Shopify allows you to link to Instagram directly and create links on your pictures for whatever's in that photo. So if I post a picture of a dress that we have, I can tag that product. Someone just taps on the picture and it has a little bubble that pops up with that product's name, the price. They can click on that link and it takes them directly into checking out for that product. So kind of what Nathan was talking about a buy now, that's a call to action all the time. They're clicking on it. They know how much it is. They can click on that, choose their size, and go through the process of checking out. So on top of that, I have learned that Instagram and Facebook presence, you don't have to and shouldn't be constantly trying to sell something. My feed is a mix between the products that I'm selling, feel good stuff, funny, all of that, just the honesty, real life, all thrown into one. And it allows your customer to connect with you on multiple different facets of life. So if I'm just constantly putting a product in front of them and constantly trying to sell something to them, they're not really connecting with me. Whereas if I post a funny meme, they're like, oh, I relate to this person. This is funny to me too. I've gone through this today too, whatever it may be. And the reality is that people buy from people that they like, and they want to be able to relate to the person who they're purchasing from. And even if you don't get that face-to-face connection, which you're not going to get in online, I think being able to still connect with them in ways outside of that is really important. So I do a mixture of stories and posts, things that get my customers interactive, and Instagram and Facebook both are really great. You can do polls and different little questionnaires and all different kinds of things that just get an audience engaging with you. And then a big thing would be consistency. It takes time to build a business, and I spoke on this in our meeting, just talking about this earlier on Monday, but the Facebook and Instagram algorithm, no one is ever going to be able to figure it out. It's constantly changing, and you have to be posting consistently in order for a different portion of your audience to be seeing it. So if I post at 9 a.m., those people that saw that 9 a.m. post might not see if I post again at 3 p.m. And it doesn't need to be the same post, but just constantly having a flow throughout the day of something that's getting in front of your customers. So just consistency in how often you're posting. And then also, I personally believe that the aesthetics of your Instagram feed and Facebook feed is important too. So making sure that it fits simple things like, a picture, certain ones, if you post it to Instagram, the way that it lays out, the head of somebody gets cut off, or their feet gets cut off, or it's zoomed in weird, you can't read all the words or whatever. That doesn't make it aesthetically pleasing or easy for someone to figure out. If I'm trying to talk about shoes and you can't see the shoes, then it doesn't complete the outfit. And that's just an example for me selling clothes. But so yeah, I just think consistency is huge, how often you're posting, but then also the aesthetics and look of your Instagram and Facebook.
Lori, you're muted.
Yep, can't hear you.
Stacy, will you tell us a little bit about Townie?
Sure. So we've had Townie for quite a while, actually. And at the time that he came in, we were looking for a referral kind of program. We had always had one. I feel like for businesses, it's important to have some sort of rewards program. We started kind of with like a punch card, and, for every $20 they spent, they would get a punch. But I found out that it's just hard to keep up with those. And so when I was actively looking for a solution to that, and when Townie came in, it was, I thought it was a great fit. So, it's all digital. They sign in, you can set your points to whatever you want, your rewards for whatever you want. So it's been great for us. They have a texting platform as well, which we take advantage of if we're running sales or if we have anything special going on in the store. Email marketing is kind of, I just looked on my phone. I have 891 unopened emails. I don't know if anyone else does that, but seriously, there's so many emails that come at you in a day. And even of people that I follow and love, I'm just not opening their stuff because it's a lot of work to go through all of those emails. So I felt like text marketing was one of the huge benefits of going with them, because even if you don't act on a text, you're going to open it. People don't just leave a bunch of unread text on their phone. So I loved that option that they had. And so we referred several people in the community to them, and they're just great.
You use Townie too, don't you, Chelsea?
I do, yes. And a really great thing about Townie as well is cross marketing with other businesses that use Townie. So I know that that is really big in the Rose District right now. And so a lot of us have cross marketed, where if you go and get a coffee from Lorne Baking Company, then you check in on their system, it's going to pop up that you can go and get a 15% off at Alley Valley or whatever it may be. And so it's a lot of that's really great, because it keeps people in the community that we are all in, but also making our place a destination shopping center. And so we all know when there's more than one place to go, multiple restaurants, multiple boutiques, multiple coffee places, it generates more people shopping there, and they're going to spend more time there. So,
Well, let's talk about some of the tips for success. Now, Stacy and Chelsea, I know that you've had a lot of success bringing people to your website and they make that purchase. So can you talk to us a little bit about what's next? How do you process those orders, and how do you get those shipped out to your customers in a timely manner?
Well, for us, it's all through the website that we choose. Shipping is all there. That's why it's important to just find whatever works for you. I'm sure it's the same with Chelsea. Orders come through. I'm notified through my phone. I don't have to have it all the time. I get a notification right away that an order's come through. I process it either at home or in the store, depending on what time the order comes through, and everything can be done. You can ship right through the website. Post office, picks up. I don't have to run and have it delivered or anything like that. So it's all really, really easy. It's just finding whatever platform I think works best for you.
Chelsea, would you agree?
yeah, I would. Yeah. So for me, I just like her, I get a notification on my phone. I have it on my laptop and on the iPad we use at the store, so that I feel like I'm constantly in front of one of the three of those screens. So I'm not going to miss that coming through. And I for me, especially if I have a really busy online day where I'm having multiple orders, I kind of create just an assembly line for myself. So I start out by printing out all of the packing slips, and it has all the information needed on that packing slip, their shipping address, their name, what the items are. I go and grab those items and just break it down and package it all up accordingly. And I can print the shipping label right through Shopify. So.
Well, I know a lot of people, we all have laptops and some of us still have desktops. A lot of people are shopping through their phone. And so Nathan, I want you to discuss the importance of making sure whatever you develop, whatever you use is mobile friendly, and then talk a little bit about having high quality photographs, how long it takes a page to load, and how important those are when getting started.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, like you mentioned, obviously, at this point, Google rewards, they show, if somebody is searching for something on Google, they're going to prioritize websites that are optimized for mobile devices first. So it's a must-have. It's not even like a nice-to-have thing anymore. It's like pretty much required. You need to have your website set up so that it's responsive, so that it can work on different devices. A lot of people already have that taken care of, but if you don't, it's got to be a priority moving forward. You should definitely be doing that. Along those lines, you mentioned the page speed load times. If you go to, there's a website called GTmetrix. It's literally like GT and then Matrix, METRIX. I'll put a link in the chat here. And you can test and see how fast your website is, which is pretty helpful, because really ideally you want your website loading 2 to 3 seconds, no more than that, because people are oftentimes they're using I mean, hopefully they're on Wi-Fi, but a lot of times they're not. They're just using cell towers. And if your website's taking, 10 seconds to load, guess what? You're missing tons of potential customers because they're not sticking around long enough to wait for your website to load. They're just going to click on it. Oh, it's not working. Boom. And they just leave before you even get started. Part of that is optimizing your images. So if you're in retail and you've got tons of different products, this is a really big deal because you have lots of images. Not every business is going to work like that. It just kind of depends on the content that you're going to have on your site. But what I mean by optimized images is it's like a push-pull. On one side, you have large images that look beautiful. And on the other side, you have small images that load fast that don't look beautiful. And you've got to figure out somewhere in between where you want those images to be. Do you want your stuff to load fast and look good? Of course you do, but you're going to have to figure that happy medium out depending on the number of photos that you have on your site and things like that. You don't want it to load and take a long time. Another thing to think about is leaving plenty of white space. And white space is like, if you've ever been to a website that felt just like crowded and there's like too much stuff, it almost feels like you're being assaulted when you look at it. Like it freaks me out a little bit. I feel claustrophobic a little bit in some weird sense when I'm going to some websites. That's especially not helpful on a mobile device because if you've got a big fat thumb, it's hard to hit the right thing, And so you want to be able to have it to where it's easy to operate using your hands and touch because that's how, mobile devices work. So you want to have your buttons really big and easy to press. You don't want to have a bunch of links right next to each other because you're going to accidentally be pressing the wrong thing. Another thing is if you use pop-ups or like an exit intent pop-up, so like if somebody's about to leave your site, then it pops up. I'm a really big proponent of those things because they actually work. I know people hate them. I actually hate them too, but it doesn't really matter because I know they work because I'm looking at the stats for all my clients. So it's whatever, but the idea is don't make it super hard for somebody to close that. If you've got like this big old pop-up and there's some really tiny little button you have to press, super annoying. I hate that. So you want to make it easy to use on mobile devices. And, another thing I was thinking about a second ago, you guys were mentioning the texting thing. You're right. Obviously not everybody's going to like clean out their email inbox and look at every single email, but something I would still say is valuable is the fact that when people are on their phones, who else is on their phone? It's pictures of their family, their friends, all that stuff. And at the same time, when they're checking their email, there's your name. So even if they don't open your email, it doesn't mean that it's not useful because they're still seeing Allie Bally, they're still seeing Wooden Rose, they're still seeing Anchor Media, they're still seeing the name of your brand, whatever it is. And really the trick in marketing, not trick, I don't want to say it like it's like tomfoolery or something, but like the idea is staying top of mind. And so even if somebody isn't necessarily buying from that email, it doesn't mean it's not useful because you're still staying in touch with people. And here's the other thing, like the volume and the frequency to which you get emails. So like there's people that I sign up and they send me an email every single day. And you know what? I don't unsubscribe because their content is so good. I'm like, I will make an exception for you because it's so good. If the content is bad and irrelevant, yeah, totally forget it. I'm not going to read this email and it's, I'm going to unsubscribe or it's going to go in the junk box or whatever, but I wouldn't necessarily think that just because they haven't opened your email that it's not helpful. It's still helpful because your name's still in front of them.
Well, one of the things we've kind of touched upon is your online presence helps you develop a community of people that not only buy from you, but follow you and encourage you in your growth as your business and actually become friends with you. And they visit you in your store. So could each of you talk a little bit about some things that you've done to create that community and how you've kept it going specifically during this time of change for all of us? Stacy, if you'd like to go first.
Sure. So, for me, I have been doing more videos just staying in front of people, and it's good interaction too, because people will either comment if you're live, or they, even after the fact, they'll jump on and watch, and just there's interaction that way. So I've been doing a lot more of those than I have been, even for, selling things. I don't love doing videos at all. It's not my favorite thing. But I found that with doing those, especially during this time, that it's helping a lot for business. People can't come in and necessarily see it and try it on. So seeing me in it, saying what size it is, what the material is, just different things like that has been a really big help. And it helps with community, engagement too. So that's been something that I've been doing, and it's been working really well for staying in front of people, and also just the community part of it, because it's true, when you open a storefront, you do it because you love the interaction with people. Otherwise you would just be an online business, and there's nothing wrong with having just an online business at all. But a lot of storefronts do it because they love the community aspect. So staying in front of people at this time and just letting them know kind of what you're doing, what sales you're having, what things you're planning, what things are coming up, just as a reminder that, we're still here, and you're still engaging your people.
Now, Chelsea, I've seen some of your videos. You're using video too to keep your community informed and kind of what's going on with you.
Yes, so I do weekly videos in general, just showing new arrivals and things like that. I call them our try-on videos. But recently, yes, I've just done more face-to-face stuff. I have a VIP Facebook group that is a private group I created. And this is more for my customers who are very interactive with what's going on with our business. You actually have to click join the group, and it's something that they really want to be a part of if they're in there. And so I do live sales every week. And so that has been a big thing for us, especially during this time, because approaching it, I asked them, do you, because it's such a touchy thing. And Stacy mentioned this the other day. It's kind of, you feel weird, almost like pushing retail and clothing in a time like this, when I feel like so many people's incomes are being affected and things like that. But I also think that it creates a sense of normalcy for people, and it creates an escape. And so that has been great for us, those live sales. I have a glass of wine with me when I'm doing them, and I'm just talking to them like they're right in front of me and asking them questions, and then throwing some fun things in there to purchase that, maybe new arrivals for us also as well. So I think the community aspect, people they are purchasing from you because they love you, because they want to support you. And I mean, I don't know, I'm sure this is true for everyone, but if I'm not connected with someone in a face-to-face conversation, or if I don't feel, that above and beyond customer service, I'm not buying from them on a consistent basis. And so I think that creating that community, creating that friendship in a sense, and even more so online, because you're not able to connect with them face-to-face, going the extra mile for your customer is extremely important in creating that. So.
And another thing too is knowing your target, your target audience. Mine's going to be different than what Chelsea's is. I have a lot of moms that follow me. I have, teenage kids. And so I kind of know who my target audience is, what stage of life they're in. And so when you're doing those lives and you're interacting, it's going to be different. It's going to look different for Chelsea than it is for me when we're doing lives. And so just, as a retailer and a business owner, knowing who your market is. And it doesn't mean you're reaching out to just a specific group of people, but I know who my general market is and who's following me and who's interacting with me. I know their kids' names, I know what sports they're in. It really is, it's a community. It's not just about us selling something. It's about knowing who you're selling to.
And then Nathan, before we wrap up and we bring up questions, could you talk about the importance of making sure that even once this time of uncertainty and crisis is over, how important it is to still keep that online presence going, because it is a great way to continue to promote your business and to build that community.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, the reality is this is not the end of the world. Eventually this is going to blow over and we're going to get back to some kind of life, hopefully the new norm or whatever, but this is not the way things are going to be forever. It's just the way it is for right now. And I think if you position yourself well in this time, here's the reality. Like, once life gets back to normal, communities just like ours all across the country, people are going to pull together like they have never done before. And I honestly believe this. You think about like what happened like after World War II and how this great sense, how the economy basically just kind of blew up and bloomed based off of everybody coming back home and community and celebration and all this kind of stuff. There's going to be a lot of that same thing is going to be happening after this. And if you can position yourself well, you're going to be able to ride that wave of success that's going to happen when the whole thing blows over. You want to be the first one on the surfboard so you can ride the wave. That's essentially what I'm saying. So, and two, the other thing is marketing. It fuels sales. That's what it is. A lot of times people feel like they want to cut back on it, but that's like, marketing is literally like oxygen. Like, that's the last thing you want to do is cut that. You want to position yourself well. And not only that, for a lot of folks, obviously it's understandable that they're pulling back on spending money on other things like that. But if you position yourself well, while everybody else is pulling back, you'll be able to gain more market share, so this is every problem, and it is a problem. I don't want to act like it's not a problem, but every problem really is an opportunity. There's good things that we can learn from this. And it's important. You've got to be able to sell online. I think this crisis has really underscored that even more so. And here's the other thing, the ability to communicate with your customer base is super, super important. That's partially why I'm such a big advocate of sales funnels. You want to be able to stay in touch with them. It's nice if you can do it in person. Obviously, you really want that. But if you can't, you still need some way to interact with people. And, you guys were talking about building community and things along those lines. The psychology behind that, I don't want to bore anybody with it, but the idea is basically, primarily we're concerned about food, water, shelter in a first world economy. Most of us have those things, although some of that is getting threatened by this. But the next step is tribes of people, family, friends, social networks, our churches, just the groups that we're on and on Facebook. It's these communities, it's these tribes of people that we just like to form. Everybody wants to fit in and or belong. Maybe I shouldn't say fit in, but everybody wants to belong to something. They want to feel like they're part of something. I think it's just something built into humans. And, I joke about it. I have a Jeep. I just took the doors off of my Jeep for springtime. But that is a classic example of building a tribe of people. I mean, we like wave at each other when we're driving.
Yes, we have the Jeep wave.
Yes, exactly.
We have one
man.
too.
Yeah. So I'll be looking for you, Stacy, when we're driving around. But it's this community of people that you like to be a part of. And any business that's building that tribe of people, Chelsea said it earlier, people like to do business with people they feel like they're similar to. And that is just a fact. We trust people like that. Oh, you've got 3 kids. Well, the craziness in my house. I feel like I'm like you and you're like me. Instantly, we have this camaraderie that we probably wouldn't have in other ways, and it just leads to stronger trust because we feel like we're the same. Mm-hmm. That's a really it's an important thing, not just for sales. It's just an important psychological thing, you know?
I would agree. So I would like to open it up to questions and see if anybody has any questions. And Nathan, if you get a minute, will you share that link that you mentioned about checking your strength of your website,
Yeah.
the speed of it?
Yeah, the speed of it. Sure. Give me a second here.
Mike, do you have any questions for us today?
Right now, I'm all right. I'm just trying to figure out something. I was looking at the, because I do a really good job with our Traeger grill stuff. And we do some of our print shop stuff online. And so that's why I was just trying to make sure I do have a small button. So I like what Nathan said, make it easy. Just trying to figure out how best I can get out in front of more people. I asked somebody today when I took something to their office, just post about it online and share that I was able to bring whatever you needed today, because they were real pleased that I got their stuff to them today. They were out. So I was thankful for that. How best can we do more of that? Encourage people to post on it or give reviews, or how's the best way to ask for that?
Does anyone on our panel want to answer that?
I think maybe asking for, well, one, if you have a great customer base, I think just asking for a review is fine. Like, especially if you do that interaction with them, just say, hey, if you wouldn't mind, would you go to Facebook and write a review about your experience with us? And a lot of the time, I think that they will do that. But if you want to just put out there, I think maybe doing like I'm all for like a 10 to 15% discount for stuff, because it really it's not a ton off on my part. Obviously that's a little bit more on a Traeger grill, but something like, hey, everyone that writes us a review in the next 7 days gets thrown into a drawing for whatever. And, it may not be a percentage off. It could just be like a little side gift from another local business or something like that. I kind of do stuff like that a lot. So that's an idea.
Okay, thank you.
And
Mike,
then,
another example is, if you're selling their grills, right? Is that what you're saying?
Right. One of the items is, yes, sir.
Yeah. So, if you're posting like killer recipes for barbecue, killer ways to host your next event when this whole COVID-19 thing blows over, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
how to throw the best summer bash and celebrate the end of coronavirus. If you're posting things like that, even though it's not directly related, it's not directly, hey, buy my, grill, it's still centered around the thing that people are coming to you for. People who are buying one of those grills from you, they like to grill, man, and so,
Right.
Maybe it's even pushing a local meat market. You can say, hey, they've got great steaks going on right now. It's a good deal here. It's really about building and serving that community, building that tribe. Same thing that Stacy and Chelsea were saying so much of.
Yeah,
Right.
and if you ask people to tag you in their post, like what Nathan was saying, if people are taking those pictures or doing whatever, and then they tag you, I ask my customers to do that. I tell them I want to see what they look like in the clothes. I want to see what their babies look like in our stuff. And so I'll say, hey, tag us, and then we'll feature you on our page. So I will take people who have tagged us. First of all, that puts you in front of their audience. And that's really beneficial to me, for me, because then it's, if they have a question, if they think it's cute, it's like, well, it's right there, so they tag us, and then we in turn will put it in front of our audience. And, people feel special when you're highlighting them. So I ask a lot for people to tag us, and I found that works great for them and for me.
And then Tom would like to know, what is your average number of posts per day? What do you recommend?
So I replied on the chat, but personally, I do. So there's two types of posting: stories, which is just small little 15-second snippets that are up at the top. Someone has to actually click on your profile picture to see those. Or your grid post, which is what you see scrolling through a feed on Instagram or Facebook. I personally do 2 to 3 grid posts a day and anywhere from 8 to 10 stories. Sometimes it may be more than that. Sometimes it may be less, but that's what I strive for on a daily basis.
Yeah, and the same for me as well. Like
Tom
if you
wants to know if he can see.
Oh, yep.
if you were to go to our Facebook or Instagram, you would see that at least one post a day. And then we've been doing a video a day, which will we've started something where we're doing like a deal of the day. And so we'll post that in the morning. Everyone knows to look for that at a certain time in the morning. And then I'll do another post through the day. Same with the stories as well. Those I feel like you can do more of in Instagram because people can either look at them or not. You know, if you don't want to look at someone's stories, it's no big deal. But same 1 to 2 a day for sure on Instagram and Facebook both.
And Tom, did you have another question?
Well, no, I had a comment for everybody. You know, our business, we're looking at an intangible product. People at this point, they see baseball, they want the baseball, but it's not top of mind because they have more important things to spend money on. They don't want to buy a product because they don't know if we're going to start this year. They don't know when we're going to start this year.
Mm-hmm.
How do we keep them engaged, you know, socially on this stuff to keep them top of mind? Because we don't know if at this point, we don't know if we're going to have a season. You know, we're going to be lucky if we get back the 1st of June, the way things are going. How do we keep them engaged to keep them top of mind? You know, I've taken notes and I've heard what everybody said, but for us, it's a struggle because we want to keep everybody on their feet. We want to keep them happy. We want to keep them cheerful. With the baseball side of things, with all these posts we're doing with the YMCA and posting, you know, color pages and this and that, how do we keep them engaged with us to where when we get back and we get rolling? And Nathan, I totally agree with what you said. Once this thing kicks and once it opens wide up, people are going to want to do stuff. They're going to want to get out. They're going to want to be engaged, and our attendance should be through the roof. But how do we keep them coming back? My typical sales, you know, we should be starting a week from this Thursday, a week from tomorrow. It should be our opening day. And obviously, we're not going to do that. And this time of year is my biggest online push, whether it's from California, whether it's from Arizona, whether it's from, you know, the West Coast where the Dodgers are big. Obviously, I've seen a big slowdown in the last couple of weeks. I would do anything at this point to get my online sales back up to where they need to be. How do we keep them engaged with all what's going on, being an intangible product where they don't need it, but how do we keep it fresh in their brains?
Do you offer?
Tom, are you specific? Sorry, it's kind of lagged. Are you specific to just the Drillers, or do you do the Dodgers as well?
No, it's just us. But with us being a Dodgers affiliate, you know, the Dodgers are one of the top 5 brands in Major League Baseball.
Right. So just like a couple of ideas I have just listening. I don't know. I haven't looked at your feed or anything like that, and so I am not sure what you guys are doing, but a big part, obviously, I think that major or minor league baseball, specifically the Drillers, I know is like very family friendly. I know that you guys do a ton of like just family type events all through your season. I mean, I definitely have seen that, even not having been to very many games. But I don't know if you guys have like interaction with the players, maybe once a week having a different player hop on and just giving like a message to the kids out there, or I don't know. I think a cool thing would be creating like creating a coloring page. I've seen a couple of different businesses do this, and they have nothing to do with coloring, but they will just put out a blank coloring page for kids to print off and color, and then they're like sending them back in and picking a favorite or something like that. So maybe you could do a contest where kids can, I don't know, draw a picture of them with their favorite Drillers baseball player, or
Well,
just something that keeps them engaged. Go ahead.
no, we've done that. We've done, you know, the
Okay.
Hornsby, the mascot coloring page. We sent out today via Twitter and Facebook. We sent out a word search, a baseball word search.
Mm-hmm.
Our end, if we lose games, we lose revenue. And to keep it,
Right.
you know, on the web side, I need to push as much merchandise as I can through the website. And you know, the Twitter, that's why I asked, you know, how many times a day is it okay to post something via Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook? Because right now, all we're pushing is to keep people happy. And, you know, I want people buying merchandise, not to feel selfish or stingy, but
No.
you know, I want to keep our business up, because obviously right now that's the only income we have coming in, because people aren't buying tickets because the online site shut down as far as buying tickets. Sponsorship sales are down because they're not buying sponsorships because they don't know when we're going to start. I have to keep the ball rolling as far as this $100,000 worth of inventory that I had rolling in the last 2 months. I have to push it out the door because I can't lose, you know, lose revenue because we lose games.
So, you know, I was thinking
Nathan, this might be.
I was thinking today that as we're in totally different markets, and as business owners, we're entrepreneurs, and we have to come up with creative ideas that are going to work for our market, and it's hard. I'm not going to lie, it is really hard to you know, to just think on how we're going to get through, and not only get through but thrive during this time. So for me, I was just encouraging myself today, you know, saying, hey, you're an entrepreneur. If you did this because you like a challenge, you know, if it was easy, we would all do it. But the bottom line is we kind of like challenges, and a lot of times entrepreneurs are creative, we're crafty, we can make things go, and it's going to look different for all of us. But I believe that, you know, when we have time to just sit down and think and connect with our audience of people, then ideas can start to flow as to what works for us, because we're all in different industries, you know, and all of us are feeling the crunch.
Right.
Hey, Tom, I'd be happy to have a conversation with you and help you come up with some ideas if you'd like.
Yeah.
Why don't you
Throw your email back up in the chat if you can, and I'll shoot you an email.
Sure, I can do that.
And one more thing, Mike, I love you, buddy. We've known each other for years. That's it, Grant.
Gotcha, brother. I hear you. Miss coming down there and seeing you.
I know, buddy.
But we're going to get back at this pretty quick. I've been down there and have seen a couple of other folks in the ticket office. So Joanna and myself have been taking care of some things.
Good. Hey, Nathan, is that anchor.media.com?
Nope, just anchor.media.
Anchor.media. Perfect. I'll shoot you an email.
Sounds good, man.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us today for our Small Business Matters. None of this would be possible without our sponsors. So once again, I want to thank GTR Media Group, IBT, Southwestern Payroll, Tulsa Tech, Tulsa Drillers, Lamar Advertising, Aero Exterminators, Hightower Business Solutions, and AVB Bank. And I especially want to thank our panel, Nathan Hall, Chelsea Taylor, and Stacy Davis. Thank you guys, and hope you all have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.